Hello and welcome back to my floor. So today I'm going to talk about a show I hate, and if you read the title, you already know what that show is. That show is Netflix's Next in Fashion. And now, you might be thinking to yourself, the title also says in defense of. So why are you saying it's a show you hate? Because it's time for me to reiterate a point I know I've made about myself, but I don't remember if I said here. I am a hater first and a woman second. I love to hate, but I also understand that at times this show is good, and we should respect that and be okay with that. So let's just get into the show, what it is, why I hate it, why I love it, and would actually defend it until my death. A little dramatic. I would defend it, maybe not to my death, but I'll defend it to an extent. Yeah, so this is like your first, your last warning for spoilers. I'm also not going too deep, so I wouldn't worry too much. I don't think I say who wins, but that might be a bold-faced lie. So yeah, Netflix's Next in Fashion is exactly what it sounds like. It's a fashion reality show. It has currently 2 seasons. There's a lot going on in between these 2 seasons. It functions like a lot of other fashion competition shows. You have hosts, they bring in designers to help judge. All the designers get a certain allotted amount of time to do a challenge, and every week someone goes home after their runway, every week or so. Sometimes they always have that one week where nobody goes home and it's super dramatic, but eventually you have your final 2, they compete, they do full collections, yada yada yada. It's very derivative. It's not anything we haven't seen before. But Next in Fashion, the first season was honestly a garbage fire, and I do hate it. It's not a good series of television. Were some of the designers on the show wonderful? Yes. The show itself is trash and garbage. So let's get into that first season. The first season was released on Netflix in January, I believe, the 29th of 2020. This season was hosted by Tam France and Alexa Chung. And for those who don't know, Tam France, member of Queer Eye, he does all the styling. Alexa is, I believe, a model, had her own brand for a while. That brand no longer exists, but she collabs with other brands still. I didn't really know who she was before the show, if I'm being quite honest. And they hosted, and that season they had 18 designers, and for the first season, the designers were from all over the world, so Italy, Mexico, a bunch from the US, a couple from England, everywhere, China, South Korea, just they had a really good spread of very global designers, which was super interesting. But that is where a lot of my issues stem from, was at least one of the designers they picked. One of the designers, Angelo, he openly stated more than once on the show, and it was proven that he could not manufacture a garment well, sew it. And this is a huge issue to me, because who in casting, when I know this is a design competition show, you have to design and make all your own things, but let's cast a guy who can't. That doesn't make sense. And it really made me angry, and actually ties into another point I have of he got to, I believe, he got over halfway through the show. There's only 10 episodes. But this was because the first week they all got put into teams that they had to stay in for the first 5 episodes. Why would you put designers in teams? Especially on the challenges when they're only making 1 garment. It makes sense if they have to make 2 garments or something. But a lot of the times they would make 1 garment, and it's just why are they in teams? Why can we not see them do their individual work? So then when a team got sent home and it was more one person's fault than the other, you felt bad for one person, and it's just either make more episodes or just don't do teams that much. It just, because also in the case of Angelo, his partner was really, really good and talented, and I don't remember who it was, but he carried Angelo to until Angelo had to manufacture his own garment, and then he was gone because he can't really do it that well. So it's there was a lot of issues with me around the teams, also because one of the teams, I believe the women had worked with each other prior, so it's why wouldn't we not let that happen? Just a lot of issues around that. My other main issue this season, the first season, was the hosts themselves and like how they interacted. It never really felt like, at least in the way it was edited, again, take a lot of this with like nuance and stuff, but like a grain of salt. But like I felt that none of the judges really formed a relationship with the contestants, like even in like a nice, just like we chat sometimes way. You know, everything felt very, we're here to talk to you about what you're doing and then we're just gonna go away and we're not gonna chat again. Which could be totally false. That's just the way it looked to me in the editing. But like also the judges, like not only Tan and Alexa, who were there like all the time and in the workroom, but like also the judges they would bring in, specifically Jason, who's like a stylist, they would sometimes just latch on to like small things and be like, I don't like this about your garment. And like it wouldn't really be something that if you were looking at it would feel like hugely consequential, but then like when something wasn't done well at all, they would like, it felt like they completely overlooked it and just like, I don't know. It felt like they knew who they wanted to have win, so they were, if that person say had a bad week, we're just willing to overlook it instead of like actually critiquing it, if that makes sense. They also made Tan and Alexa like do these little style tidbits that just like weren't interesting, and since the show didn't really have commercials, they felt weird. That's another issue I have with a lot of Netflix shows, because they don't have commercials. They do like at the end, especially competition shows, they'll do like this big build up to like a reveal, but then like you know you're gonna get the reveal, and if you don't, you know you're getting it in the next episode because it's Netflix. There's no ads. There's normally they release like their series all at once. Like you're not missing anything. So like that's a lot of the issues I had. But like to go back to the judging real quick, like the nitpicking became such a problem that in one of the episodes, like the guest judge who was a designer, Kirby Jean Raymond, like literally left because he did not agree with how they were judging it. Because it was a case where it felt like they were overlooking a contestant they like's really bad piece because they wanted them to progress over someone who maybe just didn't execute a piece perfectly, but it was still better than other people's. So little fun nugget. So that summer, the show was effectively canceled. They announced on their Instagram, they're like, hey, no more Next in Fashion, and nobody was really upset about it. However, January of last year, the Instagram posted a photo, and they're like, we are now taking applications for season 2. So this year, in March, like on the 3rd, they just like released a new season. And this time they only had 12 designers. I think that was a better choice, a lot more manageable. Also, all of the designers were from the US, whether this was a budgeting issue because they didn't think they were doing this season, or it was just a COVID precaution in general. I don't know. I still thought they had a really good group of designers, although I did enjoy the diverse global perspectives from the first season. But yeah, and like all this season, all of the designers got to do like their own individual challenges like immediately. They weren't automatically put in teams, which I think was really smart. The other big change for this season is that Alexa is no longer here. New host pairing Tan and Gigi Hadid. Like 10 times better in the fact that Gigi just felt like more approachable as a host, I guess. There was nothing really wrong with Alexa. It's just like she felt a little stiff at times, whereas Gigi was always very like willing to talk to the designers, and like she understood a lot of what was going on. Not to say Alexa didn't, but just like Gigi was willing to like showcase that a lot and be like, I get this, I understand what you're going through, like here's my suggestion, you don't have to like take it, but like think about it. Whereas like every time it felt like Alexa and Tan would talk to contestants, they'd be like, here's what I think you should do, and then basically if you don't do it, I'm gonna hate what you do. So that was nice to have Gigi. I still had issues with how Tan and Jason, who was a judge on the first season, came back. And like, I still had issues with them judging, because at one point, it's specifically in the swimwear challenge they did this season, they completely overlooked that one of the teams, because it was a team challenge, just had absolutely horrible construction on all of, like, neither of their pieces were great, but like still better than I can do, but like not as good as the other two teams. But they sent a girl on a different team home because, quote, they couldn't see her in her like project, like her design aesthetic wasn't there as much as her partner's, but like her partner did like bodysuits. What are their names? It was Bao and, I should use names, Megan. So they felt like they couldn't see Megan like in the pieces because Megan's style was a very like over the top and like maximalist to an extent, whereas like Bao did like very sleek bodysuits already. So like, of course, for a swimwear challenge, you're gonna want to give the lead on the team to someone who does something more similar to that. So I just felt like that was a really dumb reason to send Megan home when the two men had like arguably worse executed garments overall. But other than that, I thought the judging felt better, aside from the week where they did a team, so like they did team challenges like occasionally in this season, but it didn't feel as like horrible as the first season, especially because they changed teams every time they did a team challenge in this season, whereas in the first one they stayed in the same team. So one thing I hated during one of the team challenges is that, which one was it? It was the one before the Met Gala episode. Don't remember what the theme was, but it was a team challenge, and they sent a whole team home, right? And then the next challenge, they were just like, by the way, no one gets to go home. And it's just like, I wish they would have switched that and then just like sent 2 people home or something during the Met Gala challenge, even though it was an individual. Because again, I feel like it's very hard to look at a team challenge and then be like, okay, you both leave now. If that makes it, especially when it comes to like something that is so construction and design based, it makes it a lot harder to judge it as a team thing when it's very hard to tell really who did what. Also, like, they were like full on sobbing over having to like send people home. Like, it was so hard for them. Just say no one's going home and just switch the orders. Like, I would have rather seen someone go home on the Met Gala episode, because like some people just can't do a Met Gala look, and that's fine. That's fine. But speaking of the Met Gala episode, I did find that the themes in the second season were a lot better. They did things like Met Gala. They had a week where they had to include live flowers on their clothes, which you should go watch, because Megan did a pair of pants in that episode, and it was like, so like here's the seam of the pant. There was like little like baby's breath flowers sticking out of the seam. Oh my god, it was so cute, so good. Such a good episode. And then they also did one that was like a thrifted challenge where you could only create and use things from old pieces of clothing. Like, the concepts were so much higher, whereas like in the first season it was just like, this week's theme is stripes and patterns, or like this week's theme is the military, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do with that? Whereas like these felt a lot more creative and like able to let the designers be more creative in what they wanted to do. So I did really enjoy that. Another thing they did differently from the first season that I really enjoyed was that at the end, instead of having just 2 designers do the final, they'd had 3, which I thought was totally smart. In the first season, because you only have 2 people and they're making a full collection, they're doing 8 pieces. They get like 2.5 days basically to do it. Like, it just feels like it's dragging a lot because you don't have as many storylines to like go through at that point. Whereas like adding the 3rd, I think, made it a lot more interesting to watch the final episode, and it just didn't feel like it was dragging as much. But that's like a small thing. I overall think this season, like, just production wise, was a lot better than the first season. And I don't know if they changed production companies or what, but I definitely thought it was much better. Even like in their Instagram, which I'll like pull up now, They, like, you can clearly see that something shifted and they got a new team in charge of like media and like production and stuff, because there's a clear shift from the first season to the second season, and it's just like much higher concept. And I don't know if that's because Gigi is a more like prominent figure than Alexa. Not saying Alexa's like not like known, but like Gigi is definitely far more in the spotlight than her. Like, even just in the guest judges they had, like Donatella Versace was their guest judge for the first episode, which I think was wasted. I do think she should have been there for the Met Gala instead, but like, anyway, that's a personal opinion. That's really not a huge problem. But yeah, it's just like everything felt better like on the production, and like there was more thought that went into it than the first season, and I really appreciated it. So like, I just want to sum up all my ideas, because this is really just a rant about something I watched this week. Is the first season absolute flaming garbage? Yes. Is the second season good? Absolutely it is. I loved the second season. I think also not forcing the designers into teams immediately in the second season gave them a chance to like actually develop friendships, and it seems like a lot more of them are friends than the designers in the first season. There seemed like there was a lot of tension in the first season. It seemed like there was a lot more love this season, and I was really into that. And I thought, you know what, this is better. There was a lot more designers I like actually felt inclined to go look into this season, which was great. So I would like to mention some of my favorites. Some of my favorites were obviously Megan. And look, if I'm smart, I'll pull up some of their work here. I liked Deontay's, I like James, I like Nigel. Like, most of them, honestly, I enjoyed what they did. Some of them were a little more based in styles I don't personally like. Like, Godot does more of a drag style, so like obviously that's not targeted towards me as much, but like he still did really good work. I loved Godot's work. I liked Bao's work. It was really well done. Again, just not personally for me, but like I definitely thought this was better. I think if they keep Gigi and they do another season, this could be good. I think Gigi is like progressing into the like the Heidi Klum arc where like she's just gonna be a TV personality, and I don't hate that for her. She was very entertaining, and like I don't follow Gigi like that at all in any way, but like I enjoyed it. I thought she did very well. So yeah, those are all the thoughts I have. Yeah. So like in conclusion, really, I'm willing to defend the second season of Next in Fashion. I'm not willing to defend the first. The first, horrid. Yeah. It's really all I have. Just gonna wrap it up like 4 different times, do the whole Midwestern goodbye stint. Yeah. Okay, bye. God, I want a microphone so bad. Like, you know, one of those like Rode mics that people like hold. I wanna do a Rode mic where I'm like laying on my floor, feet in the air. Like, you know the vibes. You know the vibes.